Welcome back. On the heels of the lowest rates ever, bad economic national news, but then actually talking to Lisa about locally the housing market's good. We get to welcome Ryan Leopold back. Talk actually about how you choose the lender when looking to buy a house or refinance. Well, welcome back, Ryan.
Great. Thanks for having me, Ben.
You got to go down to Mexico.
Love being back.
Love being back here. Not on
fantastic.
the golf course. You're actually working.
Absolutely.
Good. Well,
I'm back.
It's good to have you back. Well, Ryan, you know, in your trip down to Mexico, there's always interesting things that happen back on the home front. You get to come home to a lot of stuff to work on, pretty standard. And, you know, what you find, I think, is what really goes into maybe finding a professional to work with. And you can come back from vacation, you realize maybe how well somebody is set up or maybe how poorly they're set up. You know, putting out fires, I guess, as it's called in most industries. Where do you see the different types of mortgage lenders out there today, and kind of what are the biggest differences you see in them?
Well, I think first, the consumer needs to understand that when they're going out to secure financing for buying a home or for refinancing, there's basically 3 or 4 different kinds of lenders that are in the marketplace. Okay? Not my place to say what's right or wrong about any one of them. It's understanding that maybe there's some positives and negatives, which different strategies for acquiring a mortgage. And most consumers just don't know which way to go and how do you find the best professional. So let's think about that for a second. You basically have 3 to 4 different options. Number one, you have the banks. It's called banks and credit unions, like a retail branch of where you can walk in and ask somebody for mortgage help. Okay, so that's one strategy to go through.
It's the guy sitting at the bank when you go deposit a check.
They're sitting there waiting for somebody to come in, and lo and behold, somebody comes in and says, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. And they go, okay. They get up from their desk, and they come out and bring it to the little cubicle, and they talk to you about mortgages for the half hour they have you. Okay? So that's a strategy. 2 is going to be traditional brokers. So when you see a lot of, not as many as there used to be, I think there's maybe a 70 to 80% fallout of traditional brokers, but people who basically, they don't lend out any of their own money. They're not a bank. They're just a traditional middleman between maybe the 7 to 10 banks that are still out there doing mortgages, and they go out and just try to get customers like any other business. Okay. Then 3rd is going to be more of a discount online broker.
Very dangerous. Any agent will tell you it's dangerous.
the online discount broker?
Yeah.
My place is to say either way. Okay, there's positives and negatives for all of them. There's discount brokers out there that you go online, and I promise you, you go online, you'll be able to continue. No matter how many online brokers you go to, you'll find a better rate out there. Now, if you want the deal to close, that's a different question, but they're out there. Then you have correspondent bankers or correspondent lenders or mortgage bankers, and they traditionally have their own money to lend. And a lot of times they deal directly with the main institutions being Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, and VA, which 95% of all loans are done within those confines of those institutions these days. Okay. And then the other 5% is when they'll broker some deals that are outside of the traditional box of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, everything else. But being correspondent, they tend to have more control over a transaction as opposed to, say, a discount broker online. Okay. So those are the 4 areas where the consumer can go to get advice or get information about a mortgage.
And so when people are going through this process, I think you bring up an interesting point. You know, online, you can always go find a lower rate. If you search enough and enough and enough, you can always find something lower.
It's never ending.
It's never ending.
Yeah.
And so you end up choosing one, but the reality is it's really tough to ever get that to close.
Well, I think the biggest thing to think about, which Lisa just mentioned, and we're seeing that. We're seeing the market improving. We're seeing buyers coming and having a hard time actually securing contracts on homes. The demand is high. So imagine you go with an online broker. They give you the best possible rate that they can find out there, which, again, they can keep finding better rates. And then you get in contract to buy this house, and because there's a lot of competition, they want that thing closed in 20 to 30 days because those people are looking to buy another house because it's contingent. Things got to close.
Right.
So it's important, I think, you know, from my perspective, when you choose the best lender or the best professional to work with, keep the end result in mind, which is getting a home. Yeah.
Well, you know, and especially with the discount brokers. Now, on a refinance and whatnot, I think it can make it. You get it. If it takes 60 days or 90 days or 200 days, which I think some of the banks out there, I mean, they got to be up to 60 or 80 days just in underwriting. And for people who don't know what that means, it's sitting there in line. Your file is just sitting there, waiting to get moved to the next piece and next piece and through. And the problem is, like, as you and Lisa are both alluding to, if you want to actually close your loan and buy the house, you can't always go to the person who has the longest line.
Well, what's interesting is I've had the privilege in 14 years to work at 2 of the top major banks in the area for only a year each, which I got out fast, and then being in the correspondent, the mortgage banker world for basically 12 years of my career. And I've really got the perspective that no one else in our industry has really had a chance to have, is what are the positives and negatives with each one? And from a consumer standpoint, what would I want if I was going to buy a house and I was going to choose a professional? What would I be looking for? And I think that perspective with the information we've seen going on in the housing market today, I think needs to change. It badly needs to change if you actually want to buy that house. Because quite frankly, some of these banks, their lines are so busy. They're so inundated with these refis where they're, when rates have gone up a little bit. Okay. And that's why, in my opinion, you're starting to see people buy houses a little bit faster, because when rates go up 1.5%, people start finding a little bit more urgency in the marketplace. So
again, it's that emotional piece of it. Oh my gosh, now it's going to get too expensive. So what do you think? I mean, people come to us, and they, or whatnot, our company, Cobalt, they're different, and there's other good companies out there.
Absolutely.
But they're not, it's this relationship, I think, that, you and I really do share of just a similar basis on is, look, you take people, and the professionals on our show, it's the same thing. You help people understand what their options are. You give them the opportunity to choose. Mm-hmm. And you've seen nightmares where people choose, I only want the lowest rate. I only want the lowest fees. Well, guess what? That person's also only going to work for you the least amount they possibly can. And so you put yourself in a position where if they get the choice, do you want the house or do you want the lowest, do you want a rate and fee? It's really not even possible when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I just come back from vacation, and I dealt with this exact position where I had a client come in. We had a great relationship. We went through what I believe is probably the most important thing in our business right now, which is that consultation. Lisa talked about it as well, is taking somebody through a process, is understanding where they are, where they want to be, and help them get to that place as smoothly and uneventfully as possible. Buying a home is stressful. You're borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars in most cases. That, it's a big deal. Let's make sure we make great decisions. Okay, when it comes to actually doing the mortgage side of it, I had a client who just had a great relationship, and we at Cobalt, we have the ability, which we rarely do, we can broker loans. They went online, shopped a discount broker, and got a below market rate by someone who I knew would not service the loan. Okay. I took on that deal and said, okay, I'll match it, but the only way I can match it is we go on the broker side, and know that once you go on the broker side, you lose a ton of control, and that stress and that anxiety and everything that happens when you broker it, it's almost impossible to avoid. And they understood that. They agreed to it. It closed a week late. It has tons of stress, tons of anxiety. And I asked them after the fact, was it worth it? Was it worth saving that 8th point in rate or that couple $1,000s? And it just wasn't worth it. And they've already agreed to come online and do a testimonial for us, saying that it's not worth it. It's not worth trying to go through all of that just to get an 8th better in rate.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. And I think it's the same thing. We keep bringing back to what Lisa was saying, but maybe, she brought a lot up. And, sometimes you're going to get 90% of the house you want, and sometimes you're going to get 90% of the mortgage you want. You're going to get, might not get the absolute greatest house. You might not get the cocktail party lowest mortgage rate in the world, but you still might get a mortgage that you like, and you still might get the house you really like. And when you put those together, I guess it makes a happy home.
It comes back to the whole theme of the show, is which working with great professionals who know what they're doing, who've been doing it a long time, who have great history of working with their clients and having a great relationship with them, and really helping them through the process to create a great experience out of what can be a very stressful time. And if we're talking about that house that you want, that perfect house is hard to find, and you're really concentrating that 90% house, and there's 10 people who want that same house, financing is a huge part of it. So you have to have your ducks in a row up front, go through the process with a local trusted professional and someone who's going to get the deal closed. And I'm telling you, if you've never bought a home before, there's something to be said when you can get the final documents to closing 5 to 10 days before the actual closing date. It makes a huge difference for everyone. And from my experience, you really just have to look at it and ask yourself as the consumer, what really is, at the end of the day, the most important thing to you? Is it rate and fees, or is it having a memorable experience and a fair deal?
Yeah, well, you know, do you want to go to Nordstrom's or do you want to go to Walmart? It's up to you.
I think it really has to be a choice, and I think as the consumer, you need to ask yourself that question, because the reality is you just can't get both. You can always go online and find a better deal, but no matter how perfect you are as a borrower, those companies who offer the lowest of anything in any industry, they're inundated with other people who want low-price stuff. Okay, so you can't go and get the lowest price and ask for the best Nordstrom experience and be upset when you don't get it.
You can have it cheap, you can have it fast, or you can have it good, but you only get to pick two. Ryan, we have to go to break. You'll be back when we come back. My name is Ben Brashen. You're listening to Brashenomics.